Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that nothing happens by coincidence or mistakes. And we are here to tell you a little bit about our life stories with regards to that. My name is Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. Hi, Deb. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you on this dreary day.
Just wanted everybody to know that I found the song that we were playing.
Oh,
Remember a
good.
couple weeks ago, I played this random song. I'm like, this doesn't sound,
I know, but I like
this
that one
doesn't
too.
sound right.
Yeah. Who would
And
have thought that you needed some kind of music to introduce, but
I
you do.
know,
It's a
I
thing.
guess we do. Yeah.
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 Thing. So,
Um, so speaking of coincidences, it was very non-coincidental. I'm sure this happened for a reason, right? So last week, or the podcast, the conversation that got uploaded this morning
mhm.
was kind of centered around finding meaning in life. And then all of a sudden this book lands in your lap
Yeah.
that is talks about everything that we spoke about yesterday,
It
or
was crazy.
yesterday, or
Called The
last
Four
week, I should say.
Purposes of Life by Dan Millman. And I was like, oh, and it's this tiny little book, but I was like soaking it up. It was just, it basically, and one of the big things that he had said that we had said yesterday or last week as well is unexpected benefits can emerge out of great adversity, which is why we sometimes volunteer for it. So what that means to me, because I'm a big believer in that we choose our life path here so that and we have to sometimes we choose to go through difficult situations so that we can learn the way to navigate them and make something good out of them so that we can
Mm-hmm.
then move forward in our spiritual development, if that makes sense. But
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it's a really, really good book.
But here's the thing, do you think we're conscious of those choices? Do you think we're conscious at the time that we're choosing this, or do you think it's, just the hard thing kind of, we're at a crossroads, and the hard thing, regardless of what path you take, it's going to be difficult.
Right. I think again, these are my spiritual beliefs. People might be like, oh, she's a wacko or whatever, but this is what I believe. I believe that before we are born on this earth, we do have we we know who we're going to be born to. We know we choose all of the people that are in our lives, going to be in our lives to help us to reach that next level. I believe that if you don't clean up something from your past life, it's going to come with you to this life, and you're not going to be able to kind of move to a higher realm until you have dealt with that. Um, so I don't think that when you're going through the hard time that you're dealing with here on this earth, that you're aware like, oh, I chose this for myself. I would have never, I'm only now learning all of this, but it helps me to understand that when I do go through a hard time, there's always a lesson or a reason for it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
because I'm being punished. It's not because, you know, I I just have shit luck. It's none of that. It is like, okay, here's an opportunity for me to grow so that I can continue on my journey and continue moving on those realms.
So what is that? So how did that come to be? Did you connect with a higher power, sort of a spiritual guider, so to speak, first, to then come to that realization? Did they give you some, did you acquire some working principles to be able to accept that type of blueprint?
I didn't, so all of this started, probably maybe 5 years ago when I stopped working in the corporate industry and I decided
Mm-hmm.
to to fulfill my soul. That's when my spiritual journey really started. And since then, I have met several people who have shared with me their experience and their spiritual growth and also their religion and their religious, upbringings or beliefs. And I immediately know what I gravitate towards. I immediately
Mm-hmm.
know that I do believe in spirit guides. I do believe in past life regression. I believe that we live in several different places before we come here to this earth. Like I find that very easy to understand and easy to swallow, more so than the standard religious um, protocols, if you want to call them that, or practices.
Mm-hmm.
That to me raised so many more questions than just knowing that I am guided by higher spirits, higher, guiding, guardian angels, the whole nine yards. I'm a true believer in that. And I could not get enough information about it, reading and going to different seminars and talking to different people and all of that. That's really where my beliefs came from and continue to grow. I've always had a higher power. I just Now I know what that higher power is, that it's an energy of light and love, and that I call God. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I I used to think that God was this big man in the sky and that his son Jesus came down to earth to show us the right way to live so we could go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, but now I believe that my higher power really is source of light and love,
Mm-hmm.
and that Jesus did walk this earth, but he was the manifestation of that, and he was the matter, like he was love and light in a human being, and just
Correct.
talking about how we should behave on this earth. um
Right.
so my higher power is energy of love and light.
And
Yeah.
how did you did you sort of take little things from a bunch of different sources to kind of morph this into something that felt right for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was introduced to a woman who became a very dear friend, and she passed away last year. But she really opened up my eyes to a lot to the reality that we're all one. We're all connected in some different way, shape, or form. And she would just tell me little stories about, synchronicities that she'd have. And I just loved hearing that stuff because, again, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's no such thing as a coincidence or a mistake.
Right.
And so she really, she used to give me books all the time. Oh, you got to read this one, read that one. And I would just soak it up. And then I found this community in Sarasota called the Higher Realm. And there I learned to meditate, and I learned about my spirit guides and to how to communicate with them, and the meaning of everything from the different moons to the importance of nature and the
Mm-hmm.
ocean, and how that can feed our soul and all of that. And so little by little, I continue on that path. Everything I read about is all about that. Um, so that's pretty much where I am right now. I have a lot more learning to do. I mean, I am just scratching the surface, but it feels right to me. And so that's how I
Nice.
know, for me, it's real. So
Who did somebody introduce you to the higher realm? Because
a
it's an
friend.
actual building. Like people would call it a church, but it's an actual building that you go to.
Yeah,
with like-minded people,
that's right.
clearly.
And yeah,
Did you like, I mean, did you Google? Like,
no,
how did you find it?
a friend of mine told me about it. And so we went one day and I was just like, oh man. I mean, the opening meditation alone, I immediately felt like, oh, this is just exactly what I've been looking for because
Hmm.
I had done a lot of church hopping that year before. And I just never I felt really comfortable in one called the Center for Spiritual Living. So it's the Ernest Holmes. They follow the work of Ernest Holmes. And again, it's all about just source and love and light and
Hmm.
call that God. You can call it whatever you want. I call it
Right.
God. Um, but it's just we're here for everybody to welcome everybody. And it's not necessarily a Bible based, but they do talk about the Bible and use
Right.
Bible verses to, talk about things. But um, and even the higher realm, like she'll channel in Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and share, all of that, scripture from them. So I feel like I'm learning a little bit about everything, but in a way that I can digest it and
Right. And in
understand it.
a way that, it's interesting. It sounds like in a way that infuses the light, so I believe that organized religions, are more similar than different.
Yeah.
But the folks that believe that follow or are very steadfast in an organized religion only focus on the differences.
Yes,
And
that's
that's
so
where
sad.
the problem is. You know what
So
I mean?
sad.
Because I think all of these things are so similar. If you
Yeah,
really peeled back the I'm right, you're wrong aspects of it, it's about community. It is about believing in something bigger than yourself. It's about, helping mankind and leaving this earth better than you found it and all these things. And it's so much more similar
it
than
is.
it is
Yeah.
different. And the problems come from everybody just focusing on how different it is and I'm right and you're wrong.
The problems come from the ego that we live in.
Very true. Very true. So I
I-
do know, I have a very, very, very low level, and I'm working more, I'm getting more educated as you and I, get farther and farther into our reconnection. That part of a 12-step program is belief in a higher power. You have to give up. I don't know what the step is actually called, but
Turn your will
where
and your life to
in your journey of sobriety and being clean and working on your addiction, how is that more like what would did it look like 20 years ago that you had to hold, to then morph into this?
20 years ago, when I was in the depths of my addiction, and even prior to that, when I was living a very unhealthy and unhappy life, I felt like I was so separated from any higher power, especially, I never even really knew what a higher power was, but especially God.
Same.
I thought if you're connected, and if you're part of God's world, then you're going to church every Sunday, that you're putting on your little sundress, that you're doing all the things, the kneel,
Mm-hmm.
stand, the songs and psalms and all of that. And that was just something that was never attractive to me,
Me
ever. I was
either.
just like, I will never
Me
ever fit.
either.
Yeah. And
It
I
may
thought,
I get like a visceral reaction to
yes,
walking into a church or a temple. Like I want to crawl out of my skin.
I used to be like that, but then, so
Let me
my
rephrase that. Like a my husband is Catholic and I love the fact that he is so steadfast in his Catholicism and those types of things, but like walking into a church, I am physically uncomfortable. Walking
It's
into a temple, I am physically uncomfortable. I think it's because I just don't ally with what is being said and what is being, what is being mantraed and what is being taught. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's the actual building. I think it's what the building represents for
Yeah,
me.
it represents for me, it was like being judged. The minute I walked in there, I was like, am I going to start on fire? Because if I am going to hell because I'm a sinner, I am a sinner. And I just didn't feel like I ever belonged there. But what turned me around, I spent some time in the Institute of Living in Connecticut, which is a psychiatric hospital. It was during a time when I had tried to get off the pills. I had a grand mal seizure. I was very mentally sick, and I was being gaslit by my ex-husband, and I thought I was losing my mind. So off I go. And my mom packed in my bag a book of angels, like a little book of like angel communications. And it brought
Hmm.
me so much comfort. And I was like, oh my gosh. I just reading it, like it was just like almost like a picture book. It was so basic, but it brought me
Hmm.
so much comfort. And so then I got home from that, and of course I started using again, and it would be a couple more years until I really got clean and sober, but that planted a seed. The second seed was actually, it wasn't even a seed. I witnessed a miracle happen, and that is when I witnessed the miracle of the power of prayer. It happened directly to me. I won't go into it. It's in my book if you want to read it, but it was so profound and such, like, there was no denying that what happened was a miracle.
Hmm.
And it was because of the prayers that were said for me. So at that point, I thought, oh, I am lovable. I am worthy. I don't have to be perfect. I just need to ask for help. And they've been waiting. I knew that they had been waiting for me to ask for help, because once I did,
Hmm.
the doors just flooded open and I was able to get my life back together. So then my higher power turned into same. It was not religious, but it was a little bit of Christianity, like, um, but I wasn't practicing, I wasn't going to church, but I had opened my heart to being like, okay, there is something out there that is
Yes.
working for me. That
Yep. I
it's
agree
not
with
me.
that. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
So so God became my higher power, but he was still that God in the sky, and I just
Hmm.
kept saying, please, you know, and then a couple other miracles happened directly to me. But then and then recently, it's been very recent that I started to understand that, again, my higher power and what I call God is a divine energy of love and light. And so as long as that's filtering through me and coming through me, and I
Yeah.
can share that with those around me, that's all I care about. I don't want the darkness anymore. I don't want the lies. I don't want the secrets. I want to be 100% transparent. I don't want to be ashamed. I was thinking when we stopped recording a couple of days ago, how I remember saying to myself, if you're just nice to, like this when we were growing up when I was younger, if you're just nice to people, they won't make fun of you. So just be nice to people. Like I
Hmm.
thought that people were like, I just was like, I was hoping that they would go, don't pick on her, she's nice. So I was just trying to be nice and like a people pleaser to everybody, because I was so
Hmm.
terrified of being made fun of. I was so insecure. I knew I was just terrified of somebody calling me a name,
Yeah.
or picking out something that I would like. I had terrible acne, growing up. And so just be nice. Just be nice to people so they can't make fun of you.
Right.
And
You said something a little while ago about, you found you either you walked into the higher realm or you started piecing things together and you felt comfort and
yeah,
ease. And so, I have to say that for me, I'm very uncomfortable in a temple and a church. And to be honest, like ever since my dad died, I can't sit in temple and hear the prayers without like sobbing. It's weird. It's very weird. It's like this, like it's like a Pavlovian dog reaction to it.
yeah.
But when I walked into my very first Baptiste yoga class in a studio with a Baptiste instructor, I think it was actually Barron himself, believe it or not, I was like, I am home.
Yeah,
I am like, this is exactly what
yeah,
I need to hear, how I want to live my life, what I want to hang on to, all these principles. And for me, it was easier to interpret because it went with a physical practice. It was
mhm,
like a tactile thing. It's almost like, I learn from doing. So when I took this new job, like, I took this new job and I was reading and reading, and I said to my supervisor, say, okay, now I have to do because that's the only way it's going to sort of land. And same thing with the very spiritual, enlightening aspect of my practice is it's infused in you while you are doing a physical practice. So for me, it's like it's that learning by doing.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And then it's that, I don't want to say constant, but it's a repetitive reminder of what you're doing right here on the mat is follows you out into the world. And if you can do this here under this pressure and these types of circumstances and this heat and this, adversity, you can do it out there.
right.
And so I liked what you said about, you find that comfort spot. You find that spot where you're like,
Yeah.
this is where I need to be.
Some people find it in church, and some people find it in temple, and some people find it in nature, and so,
I was
there's
going to
all
say a lot
sorts
of people find it in nature,
to do. I
you
mean,
know?
yesterday, I had some windows open, and there was a symphony of birds. And they're always chirping and singing, but I really sat yesterday and just listened to them, and I could not believe how many different sounds and how many different birds and how they were all talking to each other. And I never take the time to just sit and listen to nature. Never.
I disagree with you. I think you did take the time. We've all taken the time. It is really that you are more awake now
Mm,
to receive it.
yeah, perhaps. I mean, but I also feel like this is what I should be doing. Leaving my phone behind, walking or sitting or going out in nature and just without any electronic on me.
Yeah.
But what I end up doing,
Yeah.
if I was to do that, I would be obsessing over like, shit, somebody trying to get in touch with me, or did I get an email that I need to respond to quickly, or is my son okay? Like, what am I missing? And it's just so sad because I don't think it was meant to be like this. I don't think our
No.
higher
I
powers.
think that's right. And I think that's where, I believe it's a humongous contributor to being disconnected from a higher power, disconnected to a higher realm, disconnected from connection, right?
Yeah,
And
but
it was
it's
not meant to be
also
like this.
equally distracting when you don't have your phone with you. For me anyways, it's equally distracting because I'm like shit, am I missing? Should I be doing something? Should I blah, 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 blah. And so it's kind of a, it's a catch 22.
Yeah. I have there are days where I will walk without my phone. Um and even yeah, I listen, I scroll through my fair share of social media. I do love a good podcast. I use my phone every time I, teach because I play music and things like that. I would say I converse more via text than actually talking to somebody on the phone. Um, but lately I've been trying, like, I definitely leave it. I don't take it even into like the yoga studio. I
Yeah.
leave it in my car. Um, I do not ever take it into my bedroom, ever.
Oh,
And I take my watch off, which lets me know if my phone is doing something. So, like, I don't even practice yoga with a watch on anymore.
oh, well, that's good. We should have a whole nother subject just on technology and the do's and don'ts, because I could probably learn from some of your good habits. Because I'm,
My feeling is like, you know what? If I disconnect for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, nothing is going to fall apart.
I know.
Or I have no control over whether it's going to fall apart. And, it was like, I remember, I don't know if it was probably pretty early on. Sean would leave his phone on. Well, he can sleep through anything. Every time a text message came in, I would be like, okay, this has got to stop. In the middle of the night. And I don't know if he said this or somebody said this to me, like, well, what happens if your kids call? And I said, there's nothing I can do for them at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nothing. They both live 2 to 3 hours away from me. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing I can do. So they're going to have to figure it out. And I will know, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a smart practice. It is a smart practice. And I think especially like getting back to connecting with your higher power, like you really just need the less distraction you can have around you, the better. I couldn't even
Yeah.
believe, in addition to the birds, like, so I took a little walk and like the smell of the flowers, the spring flowers, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. So in Florida, we
Yeah.
have a lot of tropical flowers, but not a lot that have scent like the ones here in Connecticut in the
Mm-hmm.
springtime, the lilacs and all that.
Yeah.
So it was like the air was so fragrant. I was like, wow.
Beautiful.
And if I'm
Yeah.
not, I mean, that was such a gift. I was like, wow, I'm really,
I
what,
think it goes hand in hand, though. I think your ability to let go and allow a higher power to infiltrate your life and realize, and give you that ability to let go. I think it heightens everything. I think it heightens your senses, all of your senses, and I think it heightens your awareness and, regardless of whether you have your phone or not, but it is a good practice to put it. I think it is a good practice
yeah.
just to be, as a reminder to be free, to see
I've
what
also,
comes in.
right. And to see what comes in. And like, I've also been practicing my pineal, like focusing through my pineal gland, the third eye.
Mhm.
And, it's pretty remarkable the things that happen when I do that, but
Mhm.
it is can be very difficult to do. But one of the things I learned a long time ago, and I know this is like a complete like hot topic right now, is that fluoride dulls your pineal gland. So I stopped
It
using,
does?
yeah, so I stopped using fluoride in my toothpaste probably about three months ago or whatever, 3 to 6 months ago. And wouldn't you know it, my tooth broke, half of my tooth broke off last week. And I'm like, um, two things are happening. One, I don't I hadn't had dental insurance until recently. So I
Mm-hmm.
usually go for my cleaning religiously, and I'm a big flosser and everything. But I haven't been because my dental insurance hadn't kicked in. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, I don't know if one thing has to do with another, like as far as the fluoride goes and my tooth breaking. But anyways, I'd rather have a clear pineal gland where I can really focus on being in touch with my spirit,
Yeah.
you know, and my
Mm-hmm.
spirit and the spirit that is inside of me, so that I can navigate through this life in a way
Yeah.
that I know
Yeah.
is the right way. So anyways, I don't know how some people, they're like, oh, my higher power is a chair or whatever. Like in AA, a lot of people struggle with the word God. And I get it. And I don't blame them, because they've been through hell and they think, if a God
Mm-hmm.
really exists, why would my life be like this? So I understand, but I also say you have to understand that this disease is so much more powerful than you, and you cannot handle it, take care of it on your own. So you have to either ask for help from another person or hand it over to something that's bigger than you.
Right. Right.
And
And
so,
that's the thing. It's really just at the very, very core, the very, very basic. There goes the dog. Um, Lowest common denominator is understanding that there is something bigger than just yourself at work on your behalf.
right, on your behalf. Exactly. That's so good. It is on your behalf. It is absolutely 100%. And you have all of the support that you need around you. You just have to ask for it, really, in the physical realm and the non-physical realm. Just asking for help makes all the difference. You can't hear your dog in the background.
It's because I muted. Can you hear him now?
No.
Oh, good. All
This
right.
day and age with Zoom, you have,
I know.
they're able, no, you can't hear it. So, but
So
I,
I would love to hear because I am fascinated with other people's stories about higher power, what guides them through their life, what has helped them understand um the things that they perceive that have gone wrong or have been struggle for them in their life. I would love to hear from people.
I would too. I would love that. Even if if we're not like-minded and you think, I
Yeah,
just would love to hear. I love stories of hope and resilience and
me
miracles.
too. Me
It
too.
do happen. You just gotta be conscious of them. So,
Yeah. Um, so listen, if any of this speaks to you, or even if it doesn't speak to you and you want to poke the bear a little bit, rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. When this goes up onto social media, please message myself or Deb. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to, if it's something that we would love to have a guest, you know,
mhm.
um, please feel free.
Yeah, and I apologize because when I went to upload our 26 episode 26 this morning,
Yeah.
I realized that I'd never uploaded 25. I don't know why.
25 was 25 Brawgate? No.
No, no. The what we yeah, the one from last week. I don't know. Forgot what that was. But
Oh, okay.
it
Not
alerted.
the one where I thought we were being sponsored by an underwear mom.
No, I think that was the week before. Oh, I don't
Oh God.
and
Oh, well,
anyway.
anyway, it's so good to see you. And it's funny because again, there's no coincidences, but from the time that we had been separated and brought back together, like we have such similar stories.
Yeah,
And in regards to finding something bigger and but really not, it's not organized religion,
no.
and knowing that there's something so much greater out there. I love that for us.
Yes, me too. And I'd love to hear what other people's higher powers are. That would be amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Until next time, I love you.
Okay, love you.